between Enyimba and Gombe United has been postponed, of course, for obvious reason. Helplines of Owerri will be already 2 goals down against Plateau United. Kastina United 1, Kano Pillars 0 yet to score, and then Sporting Lagos 0 and Akwa United 0. That is the matches that are going on in the Nigerian Professional Football League, or Nigerian Premier League, as you will always prefer to call it. The match between Rivers United and Niger Tornadoes could not hold because of the continental engagement of Niger Tornadoes. So Niger Tornadoes extra week to rest before they hit the road again back to either Kaduna or only God knows where next they will be playing their matches. But if all things be equal, they should be playing their next match in Mina against Rangers International of Enugu this weekend. But let's see if that will span out or not. So Abia Warriors, who has also had their match postponed, but again, we are going to see if their match against Kwara United has been postponed has anything to do with the coach that was sacked, because Erastus Onu has been sacked as a result of Niger Tornadoes lost in Kaduna over the weekend. So that is that about that. And of course, before we leave here, we'll give you the updates of some of the matches that are still going on. Yeah, this evening our focus is going to be taking. Yeah, that match has been postponed. Actually, I've said so. We said so. The match between Enyimba and Gombe United have been postponed. Gombe United in deep financial crisis at the moment. So we hope that the governor of Gombe State will actually come to the aid of that club. All right, you can follow this program live on Facebook. Just go to Prestigefm91.7mx and follow us live on Facebook. We are streaming live on Facebook as we speak right now. So you're going to be following us live on the go. So just come over to Prestige FM. Go to Prestige FM 91.7mx and you'll be following us live on Facebook this evening. So we're focusing on the All African Games. We have already told you some of the sports that Nigeria will be featuring in the All African Games, and of course the Falcons on Monday we were here when we were talking about the Falcons, and the match actually ended 1 goal in favor of Nigeria, and of course Super Falcons will be taking on the Bayana of South Africa. What a match we'll be looking forward to. That is going to be very exciting and very interesting encounter between Nigeria and South Africa. Alright, quickly let's go over to the corner of where I will take a newspaper review. Yes, in case you miss it out in the morning or afternoon, this is the right time. When you are cooling off, maybe at home now, you can go through the newspapers for the day, the sporting dailies for the day. Of course, this evening we have all the regulars in the studio. Of course, we have Austin all the way from Elamina International, and of course Naomi and Martins. We're all here, and of course the wonderful technical man who is behind the console right here. I'm talking about the man who is making this streaming live. We're talking about Stephen Gia. You know, anybody who is called Stephen must be a kind-hearted person, of course, from the scriptures. So it is, and we know that is. All right. So good evening once more, and welcome on board. This is the Sports Plus, the midweek edition of the program. Let's quickly go over to Martins, who will be taking us through the newspaper reviews. All right.
Okay. Good evening and welcome to the newspaper review. It is the midweek edition of the Sports Flash, and on the Punch Sports Extra, on the cover page we see Olympic Dream. That is on page 2 of the Punch Sports Extra, and on page 3 we see Baka remove Alves from honors list after he had issues about rape and all in his after the court pronounced him guilty for such allegations. So he was taken out of the honors list in Barcelona. And on page 5 we see Punch faces uncertain Chelsea future. Pochettino faces uncertain Chelsea future, and Pep urges De Bruyne to stay. Huge offers for De Bruyne, but Pep urging De Bruyne to stay. That is on page 4. And on page 3 we see Pioli charges Chukwueze to step up. That is on page 3. And on page 6 we see Iwobi Basi named in EPL Team of the Week. Manchester. And Gallas to Arteta, sign Solanke, not Osimhen. That is on page 8. of the Punch Sports Extra. And injured Ekong vows to return stronger. That is on page 7. And on page 6, we see Okoye dreams Eagles return after AFCON no-show. And lastly, on page 7, Voodoo new to me, says World Drum. That one, you need to check out that story. Is on page 7 of the Punch Sports Extra. Moving over to the Nation Sporting Live newspaper, on the cover page, we see Okoye DS Wabali. I want my Eagles shirt back. Says it was hard watching AFCON from home. That is on page 7 of the Sporting Live newspaper. Boniface performs light running duties. That is on page 7. He could return in April. And on page 7 also, Ekong, I know where Osimhen will play next season. Moving over to page 6, Nigeria versus Argentina friendly cancelled again. Visa difficulties cited. NFF looking for another opponent. And still on page 6, Pasero loses out on Algeria top post. And on page 2, we see Mitoma to miss rest of the season with back injury. We wish him quick recovery for Brighton. And Alonso turned down Bayern chief. That is on page 5. And on page 3, Pochettino. Chelsea owners still support me, says Pochettino. Chelsea owners. But I'm not sure he's going to have so much support from Naomi, but Chelsea owners still support him. And on the back page, Mbappe won't be offered new PSG deal by Emir of Qatar. Mbappe won't be offered new PSG deal by Emir of Qatar. And on page 3, we see Haaland scores 5 as holders romp into quarterfinals. That is on page 3. And Nkunku facing up to months out through injury. That is on page 2. One interesting story: Maguire out, Fernandez out, Varane doubtful. This is on page 3. I'm talking about the FA Cup game between Nottingham Forest and Manchester United. And Klopp says Reds need miracle to ease injury woes. That is on page 3. And Barca preparing to offer a 2-year contract to Rabiot. And lastly, South Africa set up final playoff against Falcons. That is all that we can take on the newspaper review.
All right, thank you very much. It's quite a number of catchy stories out there, but let's just take one or two of it. Okay, maybe I'll just say one or two things. Like I often say, charity begins at home. Let's talk about the Okoye,
Yes.
who actually is trying to stage a comeback to the national team, especially the goalkeeping department. And this is what we have been clamoring for. When we see players having to compete for shirts in the competition, they become very competitive in the national team. You see everybody stepping up his game. Maduka Okoye will now begin to look at it Nwabali from one side of his eye and say, well, I have somebody who is going to compete with me. Francis Uzoha was not giving him that run for his money, but now we have some local boys in the team. We have some, an African-based diaspora in Nwabali in South Africa, giving him a run for the money, and actually manning the sticks in South Africa during the AFCON, and at least gave a good account of himself. So automatically now it is clear to everybody that just a question of opportunity. When you are given the opportunity, everybody can do. Actually, nobody actually fools him out of the team. Maduka Okoye was actually because of some threats, some hollows that he did against the match against Ghana. And I think that is okay. It was even Francis Zoe that was in the goal that day. But again, he actually did some terrible school children errors. And I think that was what actually caused. And then before you know it, there were a lot of threats to his life by some very, very unprofessional and very, very upcoming hooligans. Let me use the word upcoming because they've not been certified as the categories that were actually threatening him and perhaps his family. So I think that was what actually made him to take the back seat from the national team. But as it stands now, with the kind of way they celebrated the silver winning Eagles, everybody will be sure that if I had been there, at least I would have been some dollars richer by now. So I think that's why I'm sure we are seeing this new clamor. Again, it's a good news to see Boniface actually coming back gradually. We hope that his injuries, worries will be put behind him so soon. But unfortunately, he might not be taking much part in the remaining remainder of the season. So it still boils down to the fact that he has paid a very, very, very high price for his honoring his nation. And that is one area I want to find out. Since he was replaced, doesn't mean that we as a country would not really appreciate those who actually came for the call up to the camp, but could not play because of injuries and they were replaced. Are we now saying that those players were not in any way going to be compensated or maybe appreciated because actually they were in national duty when they sustained those injuries? All right, Austin, once more, good evening and welcome to the program.
Good evening, Dan, and good evening, our wonderful listeners.
Okay, so like I was just trying to say, okay, by the way, let's equally put it in context. Midweek matches are going on, 2 matches have been postponed, and then 1 match will be taking place tomorrow, which is Thursday, and that is the match between Shooting Stars and Bendel Insurance, which will be taking place at Ibadan. So I think that is the only match that will be taking place tomorrow. Every other match, apart from the match between Tornadoes and Rivers is postponed. Gombe United and Eimba 2 is postponed. These are the 2 matches that are postponed today, but any other match is already on their way. Okay, Austin, here we are. Let's look at the Nigerian preparation for the All African Games. Yeah, for a very long time. Okay, they say we shouldn't call it All African Games. There is a change of name actually. It is now African Games, not All African, because Africa is Africa, so there is nothing like all again in it. So I think that change of name is reflective in this edition of the games, which will be taking place in Accra, Ghana. So Nigeria will be participating. We have not been doing badly at all in all African games. We've never gone below 3rd, 4th. That is the worst performance we've ever recorded in the all African games. You have always been either 1st or 2nd. 2nd mostly than even the 1st position. So what do we think will happen this season this year? Because there are more sports that are coming into play this time around. There are some clubs, sports that were actually just mere demonstrative sport in those days, but now they are becoming scoring events. So let's start from there.
Yeah, actually, like you said, going down memory lane, Nigeria has always been a force in the games. Not until when then it used to be Nigeria, Egypt. We were always finishing 2nd behind Egypt because of swimming, the aquatic events, and then gymnastics, where we don't usually have, which is not usually our strength. And then came another force when South Africa were allowed into the games. Nigeria now started shortly between that 2nd. It was in Koja when we hosted it in Nigeria in 2003, 2004 that Nigeria actually came tops. We don't want to say some of the things that happened, some of the games we introduced that were alien to some of the other countries that made us to come first in that event. And since that time, it has been difficult to see that 1st position. But by and large, we've been doing well. But the preparations this time around, sincerely speaking, most people don't even know whether, if not that we are saying it in Prestige now, I doubt if there are people that even know whether an event like this is coming up.
On the 8th of March.
Yes, and because it has been overshadowed by the...
In fact, the games itself will kick off from the 5th to the 18th of March.
Yes,
so it is already
been overshadowed by the AFCON that just came by, and then the Olympic that is forthcoming in Paris. They've overshadowed. Usually, this is the platform where we are supposed to test and discover some new athletes from these All African Games. Discover some new athletes that can make the cut. It's just again, those days around 91, before Barcelona 92, you see that the All African Games in 1991, they use it as a test run, where some people will pick points that will make them qualify to participate in the Olympics. But this time around, most of the qualifiers are even held, for some sports, are held in Europe. So the All African Games is not given too much consideration as an event that will give you your points, scoring points, to be part of the Olympics. Like boxing, for example. Now, boxing, they have their own qualifiers that is usually hosted by Cameroon. Most times, Cameroon always take that this in and Ghana to host it, and from there they pick qualifiers. But usually before, it used to be the All-African Games where you pick boxers that will represent Nigeria for both the Commonwealth and the Olympic Games. But as it is now, most Nigerians don't even know whether this African Games is coming. Maybe when they start seeing it on screen, no advertisement for now, no promo in any of the cable networks.
Well, even if there are promo, where's the NEPA light to?
That's the good question.
Light to watch
for 48 hours, I only had lights in my house for 3 hours.
It is so bad. It's
so I began to wonder, because when I was coming to the studio, I saw light around Boost. I said, okay, maybe these ones, they are enjoying light, because from the old city gate down to Chanchaga, I don't know if there is an offense they committed.
Well, it is so bad that people are not talking about
and
it.
Nobody has come out to explain to the customers. It is the right of the customers to say, okay, the national grid is down, or we are not being able to generate power up to distribute. Let everybody know, so that if you have your small money, you don't expect, you go and look for fuel to buy.
Good.
But nobody is saying anything.
You see, I'm just trying to chip in, because when you are talking about, no, you are not watching the promos because when the light is not there,
you can't see anything.
Access your television and to even watch what is going on. So I think it's quite very unfortunate. Well, we're not talking politics, or we're not talking economics strictly, but again, sport is interwoven with all this.
Yes.
Because you can't talk sport without talking politics.
And it's the right for the customer to know
about economy. So
it's the right of the customer to be aware.
In fairness to Nigerians and to Nigerians, they've been very patient with them. So I think they are not equally living up to the Public Enlightenment Department of AEDC can do far more than what they are doing. If there are problems, educate people.
Educate the public. These are the problems we are facing. This is the reason why you can't give power.
Randomly, once in a while, you just issue a statement and then you go back to sleep and you don't care what happens. I mean, it's not done anyway. Well, we can do that because we take everything for granted.
This is Nigeria.
That is why some of these things are there. Because if I have a meter that I paid for, if I have a light that I'm paying for, and you are depriving me of enjoying that facility, then I think I'm equally duty bound to take actions against you. But how many Nigerians will take such course of action? I think very few. So that is why you see them do anyhow they like. People buy things in the freezer, and of course, because there is no...
Yes, perishable items get spoiled every now and then.
So it's quite unfortunate, but okay, that is how we are. So let us leave it at that. All right, back to base again. Let's look at the totality of the sports and the comparative advantage we have. What are the sports that we think will give us the medals? Because each time we go to the All-African Games, before now, all the areas we have been concentrating is the short distance, athletic short distance. But now, the Malawians are coming, the Kenyans are coming, South Africans are coming, Ghanaians are coming, even, there is a country in Africa, in West Africa, Ivorians are actually coming into the short distance.
Ivorians are there.
Yes.
And then you look at Burkina Faso. And then you look at the young man that is setting records here and there from Botswana.
It's actually there.
Yes.
So where were we going to be looking and say, okay, this is where our medal horse will be coming from? All right. Now let's look at the generality of the All-African Games. Nigeria, for some time, actually have been winning medals from boxing, from karate, okay, wrestling. Those are the taekwondo. Yes, to some level. But I don't know. These are not really medal halls for any country. The medal halls are in aquatic sports.
Aquatic and gymnastics.
But we are beginning to see that canoeing has become one of Nigerian pastime in recent time, courtesy of Rear Admiral for Pobeni, I think. Yeah, Pobeni, I think he actually bring this canoeing to limelight, and is really pushing. Now it's one of the events that is going to be competed for at the All-African Games. So, which area are we looking at as Nigerians?
Good evening to all the listeners. Just like you said, I don't really know about the canoeing shadow, but whatever Nigeria will bring on the table in these African Games, I believe something, because what the Super Eagles did in the AFCON, I believe any game that Nigeria will take to the All African Games, they will bring their best to the table, because they will be expecting the replication of what the president did to the Super Eagles to be replicated to them. So whatever games Nigeria will carry to the All African Games, they will yield fruit.
All right, Honorable Michael Oluwadamilola, I am Michael from Beggar Junction. Beggar Junction is in Abuja, right? All right. Okay, Beggar Junction in Tudufulani. Maybe. All right. You say you are with us. Okay, we have this one also. He said, Umar Manta. He said, I'm with you live from Rafshi City. I don't know. Good evening, radio presenters. My prediction for tonight's game, Chelsea versus Leeds, is Chelsea 3-0. All right, Umar, he said, good afternoon to you all. This wonderful evening. All right, guys, keep it rolling from our Facebook page. Yes, go to Facebook, Prestige91.7mx, and just let us know what you are feeling. Okay, all right, gentlemen. Nigeria is on the match again. Of course, Ghana is going to be hosting, and of course, if you are hosting, there are some advantages.
Yes.
When Koja came, I don't want to go to Koja because I was here in Mina, and I was shuttling between Mina and Abuja, and I was watching some of the events in Abuja. I was also here keeping an eye on what was happening in Kaduna from time to time. And of course, in that Koja games, we knew that Nigeria was desperate to actually finish tops, and of course, top do we finish. So this time around, the Ghanaians, who actually have never finished second in the All African Games. No matter the magic they do, can they really upstage the traditional team or in countries like Nigeria, South Africa, and Egypt to finish tops?
For any nation to host a competition generally, there must have been preparations down, and they have prepared, so to say, in their own capacity. But looking at the games that would be played, that will be featured or competed in Ghana, I wouldn't say there's definitely going to be advantages for Ghana when it comes to fan base and all of those things. There will be some advantages to Ghana in their hometown, but we hope that advantage is going to give them the leverage to probably come second, but it is going to be hard. Looking at the what sports they dominate in, what medals it brings, the number of medals it brings. So it is not going to accumulate so much to give them that top position. Well, if we see a turnaround in their participation level and in their winning level in some sports, it could change.
All right, let's be specific on some sports now. Let's take football, which actually is. I was thinking it was under 23, but actually it's under 20 that is actually participating in the football category. That's why Coach Issa Ladan is actually piloting the affairs of that team. Football, just one medal. And sometimes we place too much emphasis on team events.
Yes.
What purpose would this, our under 20 participation in the Olympics, serve for that team?
Well, to me, the only purpose it will serve is just in the aspect of exposure. It's just to expose them more, and then maybe some of them will get a look in from some scouts that may be there. And then, at this stage now, it is not a FIFA, it is not an event that is in the FIFA calendar. So you don't expect scouts from Europe to be there as much. But you may see scouts from Asia, you may see scouts from North African club sites.
And the Saudi.
They will come around, and the Saudi, yeah, that's the Asia. That's why I mentioned Asia. So you will see some of these scouts around there. They may pick one or two of these players, say those that will excel there. I think that's only the purpose. But if you look at the medal itself, it's just one medal. We over-celebrated 1996 Atlanta because that was the first time, first of its kind in Africa. And Nigeria per se, and that's why it was that celebrated. It took the shine off other medals, forgetting that Choma Ajua also won a gold medal before that final game in the long jump event. So by and large, if you look at even the medal hopefuls, we are not looking at the pool to say, okay, this football is where we place Nigeria or place Ghana ahead of Egypt or South Africa. All those ones, they don't even give, they look at aquatic, they look at gymnastics. And of late now, it is something good, cheering, when you see what Nigeria is putting into gymnastics. I just pray it pays dividend, because I saw a young school girl, 8 years old girl, that won a certain, and if you saw the display, that she was even built to travel to Europe for more exposure. I want to see such kids come to these All African Games, at least do something different for Nigeria. get a medal in a place where Nigeria has never gotten a medal before. Let's get medal from swimming. They have more than 200 medals in swimming alone. And then look at wrestling. That's another place where Nigeria and Egypt will always slug it out. Algeria is also coming into wrestling. And that's why when you start talking about
Tunisia, not Africa generally.
Yes, and Tunisia, because when you talk about Morocco, when you talk about Greco-Roman wrestling, freestyle, yes, Nigeria dominates freestyle. It's always Nigeria, Egypt. But when you talk of Greco-Roman, Egypt was the first to appreciate Greco-Roman in Africa, and that's why it took time for Nigeria was just picking silver. Egypt was picking the gold. It took time for Nigeria to be able to pick a medal in Greco-Roman. I mean, when I say medal, gold medal, and then Tunisia is also there now in the mix. Algeria is always there. So if you are looking at even Ghana to say what position, I doubt if they will finish no matter what they do, no matter the support. This is not just a football event. So no matter the support, they may not see 5th position.
Okay, you are predicting you are finishing touchline, but again, that is still a tall order, because if you have been eating kenkey in Ghana, because you can't dare go visit Ghana and say you didn't taste it. So, and it is one kind of delicacy that some of us were finding it difficult to try it, but at least to make them happy, we have to try it out and see. All right, you are still live with Prestige FM 91.7. This is the midweek edition of Sports Flash, coming to you live from the studios of Prestige FM. All right, you can also, live streaming live from Facebook. Go to Prestigefm91.7mx, and I'm sure you get to follow every detail of what we've been talking about. Okay, let me see somebody who has been in and out now, at least maybe settled down for the first time. Okay, all African games. The question I keep on asking, and nobody has actually been able to give us reason why we are not doing well in aquatic sports, swimming in particular. What could be the reason? Because I do remember vividly that when we go to the what we call it, National Sport Festival, some states in Nigeria actually wins the National Sport Festival courtesy of the number of gold medals that they win in aquatic sports. I'm talking of states like Delta, states like Bayelsa, states like Rivers, states like Lagos, and of course of recent, Kano is not doing badly too in swimming.
Even Ondo.
Yeah, Ondo, okay, that is another traditional riverine state, so I think we should not discard Ondo for any reason. But Cross River, Akwa Ibom, a state that's supposed to be doing well in swimming, but they're actually not really investing. Although, while we are not trying to cast aspersion on anybody, but again, when Godswill Akpabio was the governor of Akwa Ibom State, sport was actually accorded more prominence than any of his successors. So I think maybe that is maybe the reason why we're finding that. But again, back to the basis. Why is swimming not giving us medals in national and international events the way it ought to give us? Because when we have swimming with so many medals at stake, we have never picked up to 7 to 15 gold medals in swimming in all African games. I remember the last time in Mozambique, it wasn't so. The last one that was held, is it in Egypt? It was not so. And of course, here we are again going to Ghana. Are we going to continue in this trajectory whereby Nigeria, all the potentials, Nigeria is actually surrounded by water, natural swimmers and everything? Well, some will say, where are the facilities? Some might say that, but it's not just about facilities. Because if we're talking of tracks and field athletes we are producing, we cannot be boasting that we have the best tracks and field facilities in Nigeria. So that is that raw passion that is making us to get these things. So why are we not getting medals from the swimming or aquatic sport generally? Okay, let me start out and I'll come to Naomi.
I would say it's negligence and inability of the sports ministry to translate these natural swimmers into professional swimmers, right? Like, okay, like you said, we have riverine areas, right? We have states that have water as, like, they even transport on water, like, do you understand? So now we have people that are naturally good in swimming, but they lack people, coaches, trained coaches that would bring these natural swimmers and train them to be world competitors. Like, they don't focus on it, they don't pay attention to it, they don't invest in it. I think that's majorly the reason why we are not getting results from there. We focus on football, we focus on basketball, we focus on other sports, field and track events and the rest, but swimming we're not getting it right for now.
Okay. All right. Naomi, let's come to you. When we have states that have water bodies, like Benue, we have Niger, and yet it's not the rivers that you go there and just jump into the river and begin to swim. Swimming has its own techniques.
Techniques, yes.
And these swimmers are not trained when they are adults. Is that you're a fisherman does not make you a swimmer. So that you must have to be trained in the act of swimming, because swimming has techniques. We have butterfly, freestyle, strokes, and so many types of this thing that you see. And it's not just naturally that you can enter the river and stay inside the river for like 15-20 minutes. It does not mean that you're a swimmer. So what do we need to do? Because South Korea, you're right, these are the countries that have Japan, United States of America. These are the countries that go to the Olympics. 90% of the gold medals they haul are from aquatic sports and gymnastics. Then some of them have actually looked at it that, okay, African countries, the only country in Africa that is actually capitalizing on that is Egypt and South Africa. But the natural terrain and environment in Nigeria is so conducive for Nigerians to produce swimmers. So why can't government invest in that area? Because I hardly see any competition in Nigeria of recent where we say we're having a national swimming competition.
So, if I may say something, it's like the